The GOP sweep in Washington didn't take Democratic presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton by surprise, and that's at least according to New York Times columnist Amy Chozick. I spoke with Amy about Clinton's potential run for the White House in 2016 and ways in which she will change her campaign strategy this time around. Tuesday night, when all the tallies came in, Wednesday morning, whichever, in the Clinton world, do they look at each other and say, it could have been worse, this clears the decks for us a little bit? Or do they look at the map and say, uh-oh, as it relates to 2016?
I think there were mixed emotions. I think that the Clintons were probably surprised at some of the margins that some of their friends lost by. They campaigned very hard, especially in Arkansas for Mark Pryor and in Kentucky for Allison Grimes. And both those races were double-digit losses. That said, there is no more astute politician than Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, and I think that they expected these results, as many Democrats kind of reluctantly did. And so I don't think it changed too much in terms of their calculus of looking at 2016, because I think these losses were widely expected.
To that end, though, in terms of what to read into it, I've spoke to more consultants, campaign managers who give completely different rationales as to what really defined the losses for Democrats. I know each race has its own narrative, but Amy, it was that the Democrats didn't own their own record. It was that they tried to be Republican light. Other people said the clear messaging is America wants moderates. When the Clintons craft the message, whatever that message is that they're going to try and approach, do they also have to be concerned that sometimes she seems too packaged, and that was one of the hurdles she ran into 6 years ago, and a lot of people think they are still expecting some authenticity more this time? Is that a challenge they got to kind of navigate?
I think so. I mean, I do think that as she was losing in 2008, she started to show sort of a softer side of herself. She was in New Hampshire campaigning this midterm season, and she reminded everyone of the moment in New Hampshire. She said she found her voice there. Remember, she cried in a diner, and women came out and gave her an unexpected win in that primary. So I do think that we will see her show a softer, sort of more maternal. You already hear her talking more about women's issues than she did in 2008. So if she runs, we will see that side of her. In terms of what the races this midterm season meant, look, it was a difficult map for Democrats, but I also think that there were some big takeaways. There were states like Colorado, North Carolina, Georgia, where Democrats really thought they could make inroads, and Obama did in 2008 and 2012, and I think the results, of course, midterm electorate is very different than in a general election, but I think there will be some poring over those exit polls and figuring out, whether Democrats are as strong as they think they are in those states.
Is there a timeline, even a rough one, for what people should expect? I know nothing happens till after the runoff in Louisiana, but when do people get an idea that this thing gets formalized and that names get started to be selected, et cetera, for campaigns? When does this start in earnest?
Well, I think that there's a widespread thinking right now that while Hillary Clinton has the luxury of waiting as long as she wants, and she really is in that sort of Democratic frontrunner position right now, she's already being treated like a candidate. Rand Paul was just attacking her. I mean, the media scrutiny, myself included, is already very intense. And so I think the question of, what good would it do to delay declaring? And so I think the people I talk to are looking at early next year, if not for an announcement, but to form some sort of exploratory committee, which would allow them to start raising money, forming a campaign, hiring people, campaign headquarters, all of that.
Are they worried, you think, that an Elizabeth Warren or somebody emerges on the left that, in effect, in a primary fight defines her as more left of center than maybe she wants to appear in a general?
I think Elizabeth Warren has been pretty clear that she's not going to run, so I don't think that particular rival is a real concern. I think, look, there are people in the Clinton camp who would like for Hillary Clinton to have a real rival in a primary. I think it's healthy to have that sort of debate, but she definitely has to appeal to those progressive side of the Democratic wing that sometimes views the Clintons as too centrist and does get excited about, as you said, Elizabeth Warren. And so who that sort of progressive voice will be in a primary, I think, is still up in the air, but there will be multiple people challenging her from that side, I think.
And how much of it is real or imagined, Amy, that between the Obama camp and the Clinton camp, that bad will that existed 6 years ago will still be there in 2 years? Or do they have mutual interests here in seeing the baton handed to another Democrat enough that all that stuff gets put to the side?
Well, I think one positive for the Clinton camp in the results on Tuesday is that, 2 years' time, she will have a clear rival to run against, and that is the Republican-led Congress. If there is still dysfunction in Washington, if there's still nothing getting done, she can clearly blame it on the Republican Congress rather than trying to distance herself from Obama, which is going to be difficult since she served in his administration. And frankly, in terms of policy, there's not much daylight between them. So I think that in one sense, she will have a clear rival to run against in the Republican-led Congress if she decides to run in 2016.
And finally, Amy, and my people would like this in my shop at least, is the bet money that it's probably going to be in Westchester somewhere, if not White Plains, the campaign headquarters for the Clinton folks?
That is the word on the street right now. Could that change? Yes, but I think that New York makes a lot of sense. She obviously was a senator from New York. She lives in Chappaqua. The family's foundation is here. Her personal office is just down the street in Times Square. And so, of course, Manhattan might not be the best optics for a national campaign headquarters, but somewhere in Westchester, White Plains is what we're hearing. Yes.
Good enough. Hey, Amy, I appreciate it for you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, we will be speaking with Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Nicholas Kristof about his new book and how easily every one of us can do their part to make the world a better place. We'll be right back.